Hello everyone, Revan619 here. How the devil are you doing? Today I wanted to go over a Heinrix build variation and show it at the early, mid and end game so you can sort of get an idea of how to play it. But I also wanted to leave it open to you yourself as the audience to sort of customize it to your own sort of playstyle. This is going to be the breakthrough executioner for Heinrix. This is probably his second strongest build, right behind the Rockstar executioner. And this is going to take advantage of using twin swords as well as a pyromancy stave to make it sort of a Gish build. This one doesn't start actually as a pyromancer, but you do build into it towards the end of the game, and it is going to mostly focus on his biomancy stuff. Rather than go through and explain every single detail in excruciating, details, because I've already covered this in the previous Heinrix build video for 1.5, I'm going to talk a little bit about where it changes rather than what we're actually doing all together. So with this one, again, he does start Warrior, of course, and we're going to build into Desolation earlier than usual, get Breakthrough as our first ability, focus on picking up our usual stuff, Shearing Strike, Psyker and Norris, again in Thick Skin around level 10, this is when you will recruit him, making sure we get Dare and Breach upgrade 2, and going into Enfeeble and Biophysical Distortion early, because we are going to be going into an Executioner build. We're going to be focusing on Agility, we'll grab Cautious Disengage, because this will help in the early game, but you can swap this talent out for late game if you want, and picking up Strength rather than Toughness, because we're not going to be focusing on toughness at all for this build because we're going into Executioner, as well as finishing Psyker Majoris early and getting Daring Breach 4. So let's have a look at how this plays in the early game. Being a Biomancer, as Heinrix, you have access to be able to buff yourself, charge to get in, and also to use Breakthrough. One of the things you're going to want to do on his main turns is, after using the Pneumo Boots to charge again on the extra turns, on the main turns you're going to want to buff yourself up to get the extra strength and toughness for the first act, and then Breakthrough's actually going to be pretty decent at getting a number of hits off. Because of your high agility, you'll be able to get quite a few of these slashes out. But sometimes you have to reposition. As you can see, this is why I took Cautious Disengage. But as you can see, as you use it, you get 3 little extra hits, and then you can use your main attack. So you can potentially have 4 attacks there. And the damage isn't going to be too bad. You're going to want to offhand the Veil Render to be able to get the most out of it. Now, given Heinrix extra turns is actually going to be quite useful because he won't be costing a lot of that AP as he's moving around, and he'll also be able to use stuff like his Enfeeble to weaken enemies further. The problem that he is going to have is if he doesn't have access to the heroic action himself, he can end up just wasting a lot of AP. We fix this in Footfall in early Act 2 when we get access to the Pneumo Boots. And another thing that you can do is, because you can secondary his Biomancy stuff, you can use that too, or just throw out a grenade. One of the things I do sometimes like doing is actually using the charge just to get in positions, then I can do an attack. And this is something you can do from Bring It Down. But once it comes into actually getting in there, you're actually going to find that Heinrix is going to be your most mobile attacker. And because you're boosting his toughness and his strength, you're going to see that you'll do a lot of damage. You can also use two-handed secondaries if you really wanted to. I just don't really feel like it. I like having the ranged option of the Biomancy stuff for situations like this. Yeah, the Pneumo Boots are a great choice for Heinrix because he is going to be able to move in the most, and because he can also buff safely with the Shimmering Emulsion, yeah, he's going to be a pretty good prime target for that. And when it comes to getting surrounded, he can just drop the Enfeeble around him and then just really mess up the enemies. Ideally, you're going to want them to be pretty close, so you can set up those 3 extra slashes. In Act 2, we'll also get Warp Speed, which will then also help to get more out of that. But as you can see, yeah, Heinrix will push up much quicker in these encounters than Abelard, to the point where you'll actually even be able to loop back round and help Abelard finish his target. Now, the Tier 2 is going to be Executioner, but it's not going to be, like I said, a Rockstar version. First ability we're going to pick up is Warp Speed, and then we're going to grab Anatomy Expert, so our HP is going to scale from our Medicae. The next one we'll come into will be Perfect Anatomy. This will be to get more armor. We'll be able to build this into heavy armor, or we'll be able to stick with light, but this is going to be very helpful for most of the game. Picking up more weapon skill. This rank 7 is about the time you're going to actually get Pyromancy this time. We're going to pick Sparks of the Grey Flame because it's going to do more for us than, say, Does It Hurt? Picking up more Medicae again, our Psyker Terminus in at a good level there. Master of Torture, Agility, Medicae, picking up deep lacerations early. This is so we can get more bleeding in pretty quickly, because we're going to be doing more hits than with the Rock Sword when it comes to bleed. So the Hand of Evolus is going to be very good with this as well. More Willpower, we're just getting in one here before we pick up Orchestrate Flames and Characteristic Train Perception. Now, you can start orchestrating yourself, but just remember we don't have Body of Flame, so you will be a little bit susceptible, but we will pick that up later. This is actually just a primate so we can get inflamed for once we get into the tier 3. Value play things help with the armor strip. Perception here will actually work with a lot of our executioner talents, our abilities and talents after the way that they change the way some of the Scourge Strikes works. It's no longer 2x strength bonus, it's strength plus perception. It will also help pin enemies to dodge. Rack Weakness will be good. High agility and perception means we will go very early in the initiative order as well. And we'll get Psycho Extremists over here. And the Carnival Miserly upgrades we go for is 3 and 4, but you can change 4 if you want. Act 2 is going to be where combat gets really fun, because you'll get access to a lot of really powerful items like Spirit Drape, Warp Surge Brooch, you'll have access to Inertia Boots, you're going to be incredibly mobile, and because you've got your buffs like your Warp Speed, your Iron Arm and all that sort of stuff, you're going to be seeing that Heinrix does a lot of damage, especially having Cassio as Grand Strategist to buff him. You're going to have incredibly high stats. For a lot of runs for a while, I've actually been limiting myself to not use this level of buffs, because as you can see, the stats are just obscene coming in with all these buffs. And then if you set up these slashes, the damage is going to be really good. Even though slash halves your damage, because we're using dots, we're actually going to use and build up those dots and just get some really good damage coming out of this. Every little helps. You're going to make sure you're going to want to go into Dogmatic 2 for the alignment. It doesn't matter which one that you go into 5 on, but that Dogmatic 2 is going to be very important to get these burn stacks going. You're going to have to be careful as you build up the warp of this offhand Veil Render, because you don't want to accidentally explode yourself like Idra when you do use a power. If you can get over Finest Hour or even Daring Breach, you'll find that you'll be able to do a lot, especially because of having access to the Inertia Boots. This is what I put on Heinrix at the moment. I was even able to buff Cabela, so I have a backup to make sure I finish this encounter in a single turn if things go a little bit wrong. So, very easily on the first turn getting Daring Breach, even though I wasn't able to get Finest Hour of Cassio. And you can use Slash to get away from enemies so they don't get attacks of opportunity, but even if they did, we get some sort of bonuses surviving that. So as you can see with this enemy, I am very confident I'm probably not going to be able to take him down in a single attack, but I do have my Warp Surge Brooch to be able to make several attacks this turn. So yes, the damage is exquisite. Unfortunately, being down to 1 AP it meant I couldn't quite finish them off in this. I could have used the stim and then gone for, say, the secondary staff, because at the moment I've got a pyromancy staff in there. But for now, I wanted to go Daring Breach. It helps my damage and helps me generate more movement along with the Inertia Boots. Later on, we'll get the Warp Fire Pyromancy Force Swords, but for now, we've just got some normal ones. I've got the Ancient Force Sword in one hand, and I've got Veil Render in the offhand. And now that the Force Veil is quite high, yeah, that offhanded Force Sword's doing a lot. The base damage is pretty good, but one thing that you can do, and that I often forget to do, is using Where It Hurts with the Pyromancy stuff. Because of the multiple strike count, it's going to proc a lot of damage, as you're going to see here. It will actually glitch the game out a little bit. Yeah, it really hurts. And it even knocks back that one. In hindsight, looking back at these clips, I managed to kill this Gene in one hit. I probably should have used the Pyromancy staff to blast the boss here. But he is immune to a lot of the dots, so my dots just aren't going off as I'm smacking in here. But as you can see, the damage is very high from the Veil Render, but yeah, I definitely should have used the Pyromancy staff. Now, I'm not showing this at the complete level 55 or level 54 like I usually do. You can check the spreadsheet for that, but this is going to be just kind of what I had available for the footage I was showing off today. Start with Bow because he definitely wants the AP. Easy Target's going to help with those crit chances. Medicae, picking up All-Encompassing Agony. Obviously, Medicae is going to be vital to the build because that's going to be our health, damage, and armor strip. All-Encompassing Agony will start increasing our dot damage. Weapon skill, picking up Blade of Light a little bit late, but we're going to be using this for the Ramirez fight, so it's important to get it here. Reckless Strike's another great ability. Medicae, great defense, the best talent in the game. Body of Flames is when we actually get this around level 40, so you'll be able to use it for the Ramirez fight. Weapon skill, picking up Impetus, because we will eventually use Void Veteran boots. If not, you can stick to the Inertia boots. Getting in Flame here, this is going to be very useful for building up those extra burn slots and Orchestrate, and when enemies are already burning so they take more damage. More agility. Then rank 8 is when I pick Edge of Dawn, and because we're going into Act 4 around here, this is where I get heavy armor proficiency. If you want to swap over to Psyker's Breastplate, it's up to you. Athletics and Destroyer is going to be very important again here. Fire Within will help with your attack economy, because you can then, when you've got that free attack, use your Psyker stuff, which will count as a melee attack with high rate of fire, so it's going to be very good for execution because of those 10 shots. Hymns of Hatred is going to be very powerful here. Sum of Heroes is also going to be very useful. Peak Condition is going to be the one that gives us a lot of strength bonus, as well as Deterioration for doing extra damage, and Relentless Blaze and Carouse is what I get for the level 51. By Act 3 and Endgame, this build is just going to be absolutely obscene. So starting off with a breakdown from Cassia, because I'm using Spirit Drape at the moment, all these free little buffs coming in here, and I can even set up to debuff some of the boss. Yeah, I can also, because of Warp Slow's approach, I can very much use my Ignite and my Orchestrate, and then I can even follow up with going in for a charge or even using Breakthrough. It depends what you really want to use at this point. So for now, I'm just going to go for a charge, because the intention is to use Finest Hour. But yeah, the damage is going to be taking the piss somewhat. So yeah, just look how much damage that charge did. And then I was able to set up one round of Inflame. Then, so this is all from Grand Trials Cassia. Then I'm able to go into Finest Hour, set up another Inflame to be able to increase my damage for the Orchestrates. Don't need to repeat any of these buffs because I've already got them all on. But I can use Breakthrough to save some AP for some attack economy. Because there's one there. So here's the second slash. So we've already made back the use of the AP. And we can use these to quite freely just kill some enemies. You can even use it with Reckless Strike. Get some good damage. It does. You gotta remember, it does allow enemies to attack back. Now, with your free fire within attacks, it's best to use those with the staff because of the multi-hit. Yeah, it's going to be really good. I'm choosing to use Where It Hurts here because I hate these two. And yeah, that's going to be a lot of damage as well. I've put on Void Veteran boots, so I have actually been generating a lot of 3 charges that I've just not been using. And because you combine them with Slash, you've got lots of 0 AP ways to move in and then do damage. Yeah, it's a very fun setup once you work out how it all comes together. I've got Impetus in her, or Impetus, just so we can get that spacing out. Now, as this moves into the second stage, obviously I lose all those extra attack actions, so you've got to try and do what you can here. So I make a little misplay here. So I've got that 0 AP charge. I don't realise that's actually going to consume my Breakthrough, and that's a bit of a mistake. So yeah. Done goof there. So in order to try and recover it, I thought, well, we'll enfeeble, then we can just Where It Hurts and go with the pyromancy staff, thinking that should kill this boss. But I forget that I haven't used the heroic ability of Dogmatic Force, so I'm not able to one-shot Daybreak here, which I would have done if I had that, because it would ignore his armor. Still does a lot of damage, but unfortunately it didn't one-shot like I was hoping. So I used Scorcher. I was hoping to be able to reset my Breakthrough, but nope. So this is why we sometimes have Rampage as a backup. And as you can see, my base damage is building up really nicely, but Daybreak is mostly immune to dots these days, so it hurts execution a little bit, but it's still strong enough to take it out. And as you can see, if we look at some of these damage numbers, it's still doing absolutely fantastic. Now, looking at some of the gear, I've just toy boxed in the gear, so I have everything, so I can quickly go over a few things. Now, I don't see the need of building into power armor, especially not for Heinrix as a Psyker, because it's not as good as what Psyker's Breastplate offers him. So Psyker's breastplate on Heinrix, not only does it look nice, but whenever there's a increase to psi rating coming in from whenever any psychic phenomena, perils, or the warps manifest, so that's pretty useful info here. Early game you'll mostly be using the offhand veil render, but as soon as you can get to Incinerator and Cursebringer, you will use that, and you'll get those procs off from Shearing Strikes. Now, you can use augmented gloves, but once you get up to the Swashbuckler Cloak, because you get that extra 10 melee skill, you can actually swap the gloves out in Act 4 to Hand of a Voilus, and that will give you more chances to proc bleeding. So it's actually going to be very useful to have in here. And because we're going to be doing extra bleed hits, so slashes and shearing strikes with the Hand of Volus will stack up bleed a lot. Now, you can use Hand of Offense and you can use Spirit Drape. If you're going to be heavily reliant on Finest Hour, you probably want Spirit Drape because that means you can use it and bring it down. But if you're not relying on Finest Hour and you actually want Heinrix to have his full turn himself, then you're definitely going to want to use Warp Surge Brooch. Let me just find that. So yeah, Warp Surge Brooch will come in here, and then you're going to want to pick between Hand of Offense and Spirit Drape, because what's going to be more important to you is either the extra damage, or do you want to have powers cost one less. So that's going to be up to you to choose. For the necklace, I do like to have Star Mist Scarf in here because of the +2 psi rating. Earlier in the game, I was using stuff like the Anatomist Amulet because it was quite useful there, but if you want to switch out for something else, that is up to you, but it's kind of what I think is the best in the slot there. Obviously, the Eyes of Joyous, getting in another +2 psi rating, very useful. Again, you could swap that out if you really wanted to, though there isn't many I'd recommend. A lot of people might want to use for early game the Mechanicus Respirator, and then late game some people want to try and abuse Ghost Helm, but I don't think it's a very good strategy, in all honesty. It takes too much setup to not do much, and for people that are actually just trying to win the game, Eyes of Joyous is going to be more effective going in with that. Boots, early game you can use the Inertia Boots, eventually you get to Void Veteran Boots, but if you're also using Warp Surge Approach, maybe you want to stick to the Inertia Boots to just help reliably clear encounters. Yeah, going through the 3 different solar fire staffs to eventually get the solar staff going to be very good. It's what helps them make this build feel the gishiest. And items like Scorcher is going to be really good. Stim, and you'll want a backup Rampage, though you don't want to use too many of them because they are quite limited. But this will create an incredibly powerful Heinrix build. So hopefully you found this helpful. If you like this video, do make sure to like it, and I can do some sort of speedy companion variations like that, whilst I also work on doing some more full builds for rogue traders. Till next time, I've been Revenant. Thanks for stopping by.